You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and he is Tom Vanderford, who comes on for his weekly segment. And normally we don't have news for Saturday morning, but now we kind of do. Everybody's kind of taking it off or whatever. So we're going to be the first opinions that people hear about Chris Beard staying at Ole Miss. And this was a big thing because every reporter with sources and their sister popped out and talked about how Chris Beard was the primary target for Arkansas. Rumors of an offer immediately going out. Chris Beard shooting down that offer almost immediately to stay at Ole Miss. And that gives me thoughts about where Ole Miss sits as a job and as a program. But honestly, I'm just really pleased that Chris Beard honestly did the right thing and stayed at Ole Miss.
Oh, I am too. I kind of got a kick out of it. The national media, they just don't think that any coach wants to stay at Ole Miss. So they still have the idea that Ole Miss is a stepping stone, no matter what sport it's in. And they just can't see why Beard would want to stay at Ole Miss.
And the answer is, in case anybody wants to know, why would a coach stay at Ole Miss? It's the collective, stupid. Mm-hmm. That is why Ole Miss is going to be a hard job for anybody to get any sitting coach at Ole Miss away, and that is how well run the Grove Collective is. Walker Jones and his staff do a fantastic job, but Arkansas, their collective situation is a mess. It just is. Sure, they have Bud Walton Arena, and that's cool, and they have money, and they have fan interest and things like that. That is not what makes a program desirable to a head coach, especially in the direction it's going.
That's true. NIL has been the great equalizer for Ole Miss.
Which is great for Mississippi to be the poorest state in America and NIL being the equalizer that raised Ole Miss up. Maybe it was true whenever I was in 6th, 7th grade and everybody talks about all the rich doctors and lawyers go to Ole Miss because It has to be coming somewhere. And also, thank you to Tyler Jordan and Bill Jordan and the Real Tree brand because you guys are a big part of this as well.
Yeah, I'm a $21 a month guy, so I don't get any credit at all. But I do what I can. But thank God for Walker Jones and all the Jordans and people like them that give the big bucks. I'm sure there are many more out there that we don't know about, but I just I've enjoyed that. I think that it is a wonderful thing. I'm thankful that in the very beginning, our NIL collective got their ducks in a row, and they're light years ahead of so many other programs. And that's, I think, the main reason we have a Lane Kiffin and we have a Chris Beard staying at Ole Miss is that they see that everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction, and that we've got NIL collective, all of us fans, boosters, so on and so forth, are all collectively doing everything we can to ensure their success.
Yeah, and the one thing that like subscription sites and subscription services we love coaching searches and things like that because anxiety sells subscriptions. You grow during coaching searches. So Chris Beard saying no so quickly, that isn't good for On3 and 24/7 and all those sites. Nope. Chris Beard staying in Oxford, that's good for Ole Miss, not good for them. And that kind of tells me that Chris Beard was probably never going. And these people that were making these assumptions of where he was as the primary thing, it was either a one-sided interview to where you were hearing everything from the Arkansas side, or you were just simply making it up because Chris Beard being this quick tells me he was never going.
Yeah, I don't think he ever had any interest at all. And it's just amazing that the job that Keith Carter's done And I don't think people give him quite the credit that they need to.
Yeah, Keith Carter is the asset on Ole Miss's campus that if you're worried about taking care of and losing, you need to be worried about him, because his reputation right now, there's probably 3 threads about Keith Carter on the Arkansas message board right now, talking about how he has owned Hunter Yurachek multiple times, and that they should offer him a blank check and they should fire Hunter Yurachek. So protecting Keith Carter probably needs to be a pretty high up thing moving forward.
Oh, I completely agree. Keith went to high school in Arkansas, but he's a Rebel, and we just need to keep making him happy. And he's earned whatever he gets. This is the best I've ever seen collectively Ole Miss sports in my lifetime.
Keith Carter, for people my age and your age that remembers when he was an actual player, his reputation as a player was as an Arkansas Razorback killer. That was his reputation. He's from, I think, Perryville, Arkansas. He's from there. He was not recruited by Nolan Richardson and the Hogs. He came to Ole Miss and absolutely took it to the Arkansas Razorbacks each and every time they played. That has continued whenever he took over as an AED. He hired Lane Kiffin when Lane Kiffin to Arkansas was a done deal, if you ask all the experts. He kept Chris Beard. It's just over and over again. And Ole Miss's NIL collective, Keith Carter working with Walker Jones, that's where the secret sauce is being made at the moment. And Keith Carter deserves all the plaudits in the world for this move.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. He's done a wonderful job. Walker's done a wonderful job. It's just amazing. One thing you were saying earlier about, the pay sites need drama to make subscriptions. I've just started a new job recently, and there's an Ole Miss homer there. I think he's as big as me, but he asked me today, he goes, "So where do you get all your information, man? What sites you're a member of?" And I said, "None of them, man."
and I'm a happy fan, right?
All you got to do is watch Locked On Ole Miss.
Exactly. Catch Tom Vanderford every Saturday morning. He is going to have the info for everybody. He is the resident insider of Locked On Ole Miss, right? Yeah, we'll just call you that. Yeah, he's the mayor of Corinth. So let's change subject just a little bit. That was announced on Friday that on April 13th was going to be the Grove Bowl games. And this is obviously a play off the Pro Bowl games that they did a year ago. I'm not super excited about this move. I want to see the game as a little bit of a preview for what I can see in the fall. I understand why Lane Kiffin is doing it. Whenever you set up that, people are naturally going to talk, whoever's going together. If you're going to have a first-team offense and a first-team defense, that is going to be known. With the transfer portal opening up 2 days later, I get all of this, why it's happening. Exactly. That said, I'm probably a little bit disappointed that I'm not going to be able to see Kedrick Riskino run the football in pads with my own eyes. Austin Simmons throw passes in pads and all of that stuff that I wanted to see as a preview of what to come. They have it set up. The Pro Bowl games and things like that, it's called making the best out of a bad situation.
Yeah.
But it's like watching elementary school field day out there in a competition form. And I don't know how you're going to fill up the stadium doing that, especially in an era when you don't, like Princely Amamuellen and Walter Nolan are 2 players that you're desperately going to want to see. And that context, they're not going to be featured. And so I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of messed up. I'll be honest with you. I'm debating on even going now, just because of the format.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. Spring game is meaningless. It is, but it needs to be a football game probably to get people in the building. There's going to be some people show up, but I would be surprised honestly, if the attendance for this gets over 10,000, now it's free to enter and stuff like that. But if it was an actual game and everything, you might have been looking at 20, 30,000 people in the stadium. Now, it also hurts. I don't know how you want to put it. The Mississippi State baseball series is that weekend as well. So maybe there could be some kind of residual interest of people wanting to do both. I'm not 100% sure of. Like I said, I understand this format. I don't like this format. And it might be a situation to where I watch a little bit of it, see it for 15, 20 minutes, get enough to have a take for my show and conversations to be had. And then I just cut it off.
Yeah, that may be what I do as well. It's, even with vanilla offense and defense, when they're hitting in pads and they're tackling, and that's different than this format. And
yeah,
I think I can probably get everything I need to talk to you about from watching it on my television.
And I'm going to tell you right now, watching this game, you're not going to be seeing any front seven stuff, any pass rush stuff. You're not going to see them wear pads. So the offensive and defensive line and linebackers, it's kind of a wasted situation. So, okay, what I'm going to be looking at is Trey Harris versus Trey Amos. One-on-ones.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about it. I want to see Austin Simmons throw the ball. I want to see Walker Howard throw the ball. That's about it. That's what I'll be looking for in that game. All right. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Sorry about all this. I got a little tickle in my throat. Tom, thank you so much for stopping by this week. And Ole Miss did hold on to Chris Beard. I thought they kind of would if you listen to Friday's show. But they did end up holding on to him, and I'm pretty excited about that. Anyway, Tom, you have a great weekend, and I will talk to you next week, buddy.
Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.